Thank you all very much. I'm delighted to be here. And yes, if you've heard my sister, Reverend Sharon, speak, most of the time she talks about the stories of her sister, like getting sued by multiple corporations and having $50 million companies ripped away from her. That would be me, I'm confessing. Lots and lots and lots of drama that has come in my life before partnering with Spirit. Honestly, I am a member of Center for Spiritual Living in Seattle, and Dr. Reverend Kathy Ann Lewis is our senior minister. We have learned lots and lots about science of mind, but she also is very, very good about teaching us about what came before and all sorts of other paths for spirit. So I'm very interested in the work of Emma Curtis Hopkins as well. If any of you have taken any Emma classes, what ends up happening is you get kicked out of this comfortable nest of self-thriving and pushed into an opportunity for spirit to express itself more fully through you. And that's the only reason I'm here. This was not meant to be on my resume. I enjoy growing and selling companies and have had a wonderful, wonderful run of success in doing that over the last 32 years. But what ends up happening is as spirit takes control of you, you feel this need to share what you've learned, to share what's worked, to share what you already all know. It's just packaged differently. And so I hope to do that today, to share a little bit about the journey of the Chief Spiritual Officer and I as we have grown a number of companies and had tremendous success. So my talk title is Partnering with the Chief Spiritual Officer for Success and Freedom. You're probably asking yourself, what in the world is a Chief Spiritual Officer? Well, for me, it is that characteristic of spirit that gives me messages to take steps towards achieving my goals or to keep me safe and protect me from making mistakes. The CSO is something that I decided to call that characteristic because as a CEO, as a business owner, I surround myself in my C-suite with people whose advice I value. I have a chief financial officer that gives me all sorts of information and advice about the financial health of our company. I have a chief information officer that takes care of all of our technology, a chief operations officer that handles all the installations and operation of the company. So it stood to reason that the part of intuition, the part of spirit that would give me the most valuable advice should be in my C-suite. As a matter of fact, I ended up putting it at the top of my organizational chart. And I, as the CEO, reported to it. You can imagine what my employees thought of that, asking me, who's the CSO? Have we met them? Is it a man or a woman? I had a lot of fun with that. And we had in our company a number of different kinds of faith. We were an incredibly diverse company with every faith, every gender, every race, some that didn't have any faith or religious practice at all. But no one was offended by this idea of chief spiritual officer. When I was asked, what is that, to a group of non-religious people, employees, I just said it's a compass for us. It is a moral and ethical compass that we are charged with giving out good all the time, and we will be blessed with that same in return. In fact, I even put on little business card-sized cards everyone's job description. And in our company, everyone had the same job description. We just had different skill sets. So the job description was, I work towards the success of my coworkers, my customers, my suppliers and vendors, and our world. And if I do that, I will be blessed with success in return. Now, of course, they also were software developers, implementation specialists, salespeople, marketing managers, and so on. But everybody had the same job. And consequently, we were a miracle house. We were blessed all the time. And these employees would say, oh my gosh, I can't believe the CSO did this. Oh, this was a miracle. So miracles for us became typicals. And we had an excellent, excellent business that blessed the world. And we were so delighted. So the CSO, for me, has been a valuable source of guidance in business or in anything that you excel at, whether it's sports or anything that you excel at. There are goal attainment techniques that are taught. You've seen all those motivational speakers like Tony Robbins and Jack Canfield, and they'll talk about goal attainment techniques. So what the CSO practice that we're going to go over in the workshop this afternoon and also in my book is essentially combining the 3Gs, the force of 3Gs, which is goals, gratitude, and God. And as we combine those three together, there is absolutely no question that anything that you desire or require in life will be yours. So that's essentially the CSO. Now, the CSO, in addition to helping in business, has also helped me in my health. In 1994, I got this flash of my sister Sharon's picture. You know, her face just showed up in my mind's eye. Have any of you ever had a strong thought of someone, or maybe you heard the phone ring and you knew who it was before they called, okay? So I had this picture of Sharon in my mind's eye, and I knew that meant that I needed to contact her. So I stopped by her office, and sure enough, she had a computer problem that she needed help with, and I could help her. Well, while I was there, she noticed a little tiny dark spot, very, very tiny dark spot on the outside of my leg. And she asked me about that. Well, you've heard in the introduction that I was born and raised in Hawaii. And I'm a haole, which means I get freckles when I'm out in the sun. So I told her that I thought it was a freckle. She said no, she didn't feel that it was a freckle. So as I was about to dismiss her fear when she said I needed to contact her dermatologist, my gut started to hurt too. Has anybody ever felt a gut feeling or a gut instinct or something you just know that Spirit's trying to get your attention or your body's trying to warn you of something? Well, that's what happened to me. So I went ahead and succumbed and called her dermatologist and went to the appointment. My father is a surgeon, and we were raised believing that we needed to be very respectful and very reverent to doctors. And for those of you that are doctors out there, you know what I'm talking about. Your children respect you. So we were told to please, make sure that the doctors know more than you do, take their advice, do what they say. So I went to the doctor, and he said it was nothing. That this little tiny spot on my leg was nothing to worry about. It's too small. And just as I was about to do what I was taught to do, which was to take the doctor's advice, my gut wrenched again. So I insisted that it be taken off. A week later, I returned and received the diagnosis of malignant melanoma Clark's level 3. Intuition saved my life. I wouldn't be here today had I not followed, had I not paid attention. All of us have this messaging being sent to us constantly. Not only have you heard thousands of different stories about how Spirit has helped people heal miraculously, but Spirit also helps you in obtaining anything else that you desire. Some of the most famous people that you know of have claimed that intuition has been part of their success tools. Bill Gates said, often you have to rely on intuition. And Steve Jobs agreed when he said, have courage to follow your heart and your intuition. And Oprah Winfrey said that she has listened to that still small voice of intuition her entire life. And the only times that she's made mistakes is when she didn't listen. So if there are all these accounts and people that you know in your life who have gotten these intuitive hits, that's what I call them, intuitive hits, that have gotten these intuitive hits and they've been helpful, why aren't we all using it and relying on it more? I think it's because we haven't been trained to. We're in a society today that looks at data. We want to measure it. We want to touch it. We want to prove and repeat it. We love data. And we use our smartphones and our iPads, and we search and search and search for what? Data. Right? So we aren't trained to follow something that we can't see and touch. I think Albert Einstein, one of the greatest minds of all time, put it perfectly when he said that the intuitive mind is a sacred gift. And the rational mind is a faithful servant. But somehow, we've created a society that honors the servant or the rational mind and has forgotten the gift. We want data. We want data. We want to measure it. I believe, and I know, I've traveled the country and have been teaching these workshops for years and years and years, and I have seen over and over and over again that as we start to pay more attention to spirit, guess what happens? Spirit pays more attention to us. We notice spirit giving us messages more often. So, does everybody have one of these handouts that you got when you came? If you don't have one, raise your hand, and we'll get some to you. I think Dawn's getting some. Being a business person and teaching lots and lots of salespeople and other people how to do their jobs, I'm a really big believer in Cliff Notes, which is why you have this today. It gives you an opportunity to take some notes if you'd like to. So as we make a commitment to recognize that Spirit can help us, what we do is, there's some over here too. We're almost there. Great. So it's really, really simple. In goal attainment techniques, what we do is we spend time every single day revisiting our goals. This practice of spending time with Spirit every day, revisiting your goals, works the same way. All right? So the first step is to recognize that Spirit wants to help you. Spirit wants you to achieve all of your dreams, your goals, and your desires. Spirit wants to keep you safe and from harm. Spirit wants to help you avoid mistakes. And we're always receiving those messages. So acknowledging that Spirit wants to help us is the first thing. The second thing is to commit to a partnership with that characteristic of Spirit that will give you directions to take on your path to all the good things that you desire. So in that commitment, I find that it's important to actually have a name for that characteristic. In Science of Mind, we have names for lots and lots and lots of different names for Spirit. We call it love, divine intelligence, peace, harmony, joy. Choose a name. You pick your own name for that characteristic of Spirit that's going to give you advice through intuition. In my workshops, many people choose names like God, divine intelligence, universal power. Some of them call it Fred. I don't know why. But apparently Fred is a name that invokes this idea that the advice that comes from Fred is really, really valuable. So pick a name. Pick a name that identifies this characteristic of Spirit and write it down on your sheet. In this partnership, there are also roles and responsibilities that you both will follow. You have your job, and Spirit has its job. How many of you have ever worked for a living or do? Okay. So I want you to think about one of the jobs that you had. You had roles and responsibilities. You had your job to do, right? This means yes, May. Well, Would you ever consider barging into somebody else's office and start doing their job for them? He would. Very good. Most of us know that we're really good at what we do. And the person that handles another job responsibility is really good at what they do. And that the company thrives and prospers because we're doing our job. Well, the same is true in this partnership. Your job is to figure out what it is that you want. Ernest Holmes and Emma Curtis Hopkins call it your good. You decide what your good is, all right? In all areas of your life, in your health, your finances, your relationships, all areas of your life, what is your good? And every single morning you revisit that good, every single morning. The CSO's job is to create the path and then give you one lead at a time to take a step on that path, or you can ask for another lead. Now let me break this down just a little bit. You decide what it is that you want. The CSO's job is to create the path and give you one step at a time. How many of you are overachievers and like to determine all the steps towards your goal? Yeah, I'm guilty of that as well. And this is not something that you learn and then never, ever, ever try and do God's job again. You will still try and do God's job sometimes, but it's much better if you don't. This is the hardest part for people. When we get a lead, an intuitive lead to take a step, and we don't know what the outcome's going to be, it's really, really, really concerning. It's scary. So when you get a lead, you can either take the step or ask for another lead. And let me give you an example. In my CSO meeting every morning, one of the goals that I had for a previous company was to have an increase in business by a minimum of $400,000 during this particular period. So thank you so much, CSO, that we are receiving a minimum of $400,000 this period. Thank you so much for all my great relationships. Thank you for my perfect health. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. What I have in my life and what I want as though I already have it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. When I travel, I have a system. I travel about 150,000, 200,000 miles a year domestic. It's a lot of traveling, commonly referred to as a road warrior. So I traveled into Cleveland because one of the large hospital systems there was a customer of mine, Cleveland Clinic. And I landed, I got my rent-a-car, got in the car, drove to my hotel, dropped off my bags, and my next step in that process is to go to the grocery store that's nearby to pick up water and supplies and things like that that I need for my stay. As I'm in the car, I get this really strong feeling with the name of a grocery store that's 15 minutes away. It's 9 o'clock at night. I know where a grocery store is 5 minutes away. It's 9 o'clock at night, and my meeting the next morning is at 8, which Seattle time is 5. I did not want to be driving a further distance to get my supplies. So I started to sort of talk myself out of it. It didn't make sense. Anybody been there? Huh? Yeah? All these reasons. Oh, I'll be too tired. Oh, by the time I get to bed, it'll be too late, right? Okay, talk myself out of it. My rational mind is trying to take control of this process. This is human. It happens to us all. But instead, I just sat there and I said, CSO, I need another lead. I need another lead to tell me whether or not I'm supposed to go to this grocery store or if that was just a passing thought. Well, I felt this, honestly, this warmth that just went right down my body. And to me, because of the way we have a partnership, I knew that meant, yes, take the drive. So I took the drive. Parked my car, and I'm going into the grocery store, and who should be coming out at exactly the right time? Same time I'm walking in, this potential customer who I had met at a trade show 6 months prior was walking out. I had been trying for 6 months to get an appointment with this person. No response, no return phone call, nothing. And there they are. So we strike up this wonderful, nice conversation, very friendly. Why are you here? Oh, I'm here to see Cleveland Clinic. Oh, yeah, I heard you guys were installed there. You're doing a good job. Well, do you want to come make a presentation to us while you're in town? Well, of course. I would love that. I would love that. So I went ahead, made the appointment, made the presentation, and in a very short period of time, we ended up having a contract for over $500,000. We received more than what I was thanking the CSO for. I believe, and it's been my experience over 32 years of doing this, that every time I ask for something, God just loves to bless me with even more. I'm led on these crazy paths, and so are a lot of the attendees that have been attending the workshop. You get to a goal, and you turn around, and you look at the path that you were led on, and I almost guarantee that when you see that path, you will believe that you would have never thought of that on your own. You would have never thought of that on your own. It ends up being a really fun game. You're just, okay, where are you going to send me next? And if you have multiple goals, as you should have goals in all areas of your life, then when you get a lead, you don't even know what goal that's going towards. You just either take the step or you ask for another lead. And asking for another lead is simply that. Okay, God, Spirit, CSO, Divine Intelligence, I need another lead. And then you'll get one. There are countless numbers of stories in all religious traditions that say it's okay for us to do this. We can ask for another lead, and we will get one. And what happens after we get multiple confirmations? It builds up our confidence. And what is confidence? Confidence is faith. So if you get a lead and you don't know, or you're unsure, just ask for another lead. All right? So remember, your job is to figure out what it is that you want or you're good. The CSO's job is to create the path, give you one step to take at a time. You either take the step or you ask for another lead. Now, the third part of this relationship is simply that. It's a relationship. You have to meet regularly with your CSO on a daily basis. And being the efficiency expert that I am, I made it just 30 minutes in the morning. There's actually a process that's like a meeting agenda, which you'll learn in the workshop or in the book. But it's a very, very simple process that tells you to do this, 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 and that is your morning meeting. You have to meet regularly with your CSO in order to be able to build that level of trust and establish that relationship. So when you've had the phone ring and you knew who it was it somebody who you knew well, who you were in relationship with? It happens to me all the time. I'll hear the phone ring and I'll know it's my sister Sharon because I'm in a really close relationship with her. And as you spend time every morning meeting with Spirit, and in this partnership, what ends up happening is you start to recognize how Spirit talks to you, how Spirit gives you leads. So the times that you have to ask for another lead will shrink because you'll know that voice. But it takes some time to do that. How many of you have a daily spiritual practice every single day? Okay? Do you remember what your life was like when you didn't have that? Mine was an emotional roller coaster ride. What would happen is things would be going well in my life, and I'd skip a day here and skip a day there and skip a few days here, and then a crisis would happen, like the FBI walking in to arrest one of my employees, or a Fortune 20 company suing us for no reason. Crisis, crisis, crisis. And then I call up everybody that I know that loves me and ask them to power pray. Sound familiar? It's exhausting. It's exhausting. Not only is it exhausting to me, but it's exhausting to all my friends and family. I mean, we're worn out power praying because you didn't do your daily spiritual practice to keep yourself at a level of peace. That doesn't mean that those other things wouldn't have happened. Any of those things happen. We're in life. Life happens. But you get to choose how to respond to what happens. And having a daily spiritual practice, having this relationship with Spirit that you can rely on, when stuff like that happens, all you'll say is, okay, well, tell me what to do. CSO, tell me what to do. Here's my good. My good is that everything work out for everyone's highest and best good. You're focusing on what you want, not on the crisis anymore. Got that? All right. So let's see here. The last part of the daily spiritual practice, which we're going to go over, on your sheet, there's a prayer that Ernest Holmes uses to describe how important it is to have a partnership with Spirit. And so rather than my having a closing prayer, what I'd like to do is have a closing prayer where we all do it together. So if you would read with me, I would really appreciate that. I know that I am in partnership with the infinite. I identify myself with this partnership, knowing that it always leads to success. I accept that the action of infinite intelligence is back of everything. It is always manifesting itself, and it now does so through the thought pattern of success I am establishing for myself. Conditions and situations about me now start to correspond to my new ideas about them. The invisible presence and power indwelling and surrounding me, which is forever making manifest my thought, now creates for me the success with which I have identified my thought. I know that there is a good for you and you ought to have it, and you ought to have it now. And this practice, this science of mind practice that we are all exposed to is so valuable and so important. It is responsible for all of the success that I've had in my life. Everything that I talk about, you already know. You already know all this. This is just repackaged and is put into a format that might make it just a little bit easier. If you've tried on the different practices, as we're encouraged to do here at Center for Spiritual Living, you'll find that your personal practice is going to be a combination of lots of different traditions, lots of different methods. And this is just another one that might serve you in having that daily spiritual practice in partnership with Spirit. May you all be blessed. Thank you so much for having me here.